Fantastic.
Good morning, members. Good morning, members of the public. Welcome to this particular committee, Grants Advisory Committee meeting. Today, the 30th of June. Had to look there just to check. Just going to go through the usual housekeeping and what have you. But before I do, I'd just like to say a very big thank you to an officer, excuse me, who's now left serving the committee, and that's Kira. Right? She's moved on, bless her. And I'd like to welcome Lawrence, her very able replacement. Although I will say that when you look at your agenda today, can you just -2 on the pages, right? When you go to the page where it says, I say page 3, it's actually page 1, right? So, but there's no criticism of anyone who's done the agenda today, just for a bit of a giggle. Right, okay, so that's that. Moving on then. So number 1, apologies. Lawrence, have we got anyone?
Thank you, Chair. No apologies this morning, full house.
Thank you very much. And colleagues, number 2, declarations of interest. Has anyone got any declarations of interest? Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the agenda item 4 is an application by Over Community Centre for an EV grant. It's obviously in my ward. I know and use the centre frequently. I'm a customer, but I'm not a trustee, and I have no connection with it other than as an ordinary member and a customer.
Thank you. Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, I'm new to this. I assume the community test application for Papworth Team Ministry, which I've supported, I need to declare as a non-pecuniary interest. I don't know quite how the...
Are you associated with it in any way?
Not associated with it, I'm just supporting it as a local member.
No, as a local member, that's not an interest. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I have one on the item 5, which is the Harston District Village Warden Trust status update. There's bits and bobs there. I'm a trustee of the Mobile Warden Scheme, Melbourne Mobile Warden Scheme, and my partner is employed by that, so I have essentially a pecuniary. So I will be leaving the room when that one's on, okay? And Sue will take over for me. Thank you very much. Okay. In that case, we'll go to agenda item number 3, which is page 3 of your agenda. And it'll make me chuckle all day. Right. We go through the normal process just by page. That'd be page 1, page 2, and page 3. Sing out if you've got anything. No, may I take that as okay to sign off? Thank you. Yep. Okay, agenda item number 4 is the electric vehicle charge point grant funding applications, and I believe we have Mr. Luke Waddington, the officer who's dealing with this, online. Good morning, Luke.
Morning. Hi, everybody.
Can I hand over to your good self and we'll go from there?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I'll just share the application summary to start off with. So bear with me 2 seconds. So that should be on your screen. I think I can see it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Fantastic. So yeah, just to start off, I'd like to just acknowledge a mistake that you can probably see right at the top of that page there, where it says Appendix A, Cambridge Sports Lakes Trust Application Summary. Obviously, as we've just heard, this is for Over Community Centre, not Cambridge Sports Lakes Trust. That application was considered last month. That's just an error on my part, a typo, if you will. So apologies for that. But the rest of the information in the report and the summary in front of you relates to the application from Over. So it's just that error on that title. So apologies for that. So into it proper, the application is from obviously Over Community Association. They are applying to the EV Charge Point Grant Scheme for £5,000 towards the purchase and installation of 2 charge points at the car park of Over Community and Conference Centre, which you can hopefully see there in front of you on the map, and the location marked by a red dot. You can also see a couple of the other nearby sort of amenities, which we'll come on to a little bit later on. So as you can also see there, Over Community Association leased the site from the Parish Council on a long-term lease, and the parish council have confirmed their support in writing for the proposal. So just moving down, you can see the proposed location there in the photograph, just in front of the building, adjacent to some disabled car parking spaces. So the site itself is considered to sort of give or have a good sort of be a good location for the proposed charge points. In terms of the demand, there'd be a good prospect of them being used, as there's a quite wide variety of facilities and amenities near the centre. So if I just scroll up again, you can see there's a preschool there at the site. There's also a cafe. It's also a conference centre, so it attracts visitors from outside the area, outside the village potentially. Obviously, there's an adjacent recreation ground with sort of sports facilities, play facilities, and over pharmacy that you can just see in the top corner of the map or the aerial photo. There's also over High Street itself is around 7 minutes walk away from the site, and there's around 30 or so houses on Drings Close, which again you can just see there, that road along the sort of top of the map, that they basically don't have access to their own private parking, and so potentially would benefit also from a public charger within walking distance of their homes. So yeah, there's a good range of facilities and attractions within the village that then could sort of attract people to the chargers to be used. The chargers themselves are proposed to be 22 kilowatt chargers, as we've seen in a couple of applications to this grant now, which is good because they're quite a lot quicker than the sort of more common 7 kilowatt chargers. So yeah, you're looking at a charge time of perhaps around an hour or two, which obviously means you can get a higher number of cars through the chargers. So moving down through some of the other sort of criteria, the applicants have provided a detailed quote from an installer along with project costs, project timelines. So as I mentioned, they've applied for the full £5,000 available through this grant, with the association meeting the remaining sort of roughly £2,500 of costs themselves. They've provided a timeline, sort of quite detailed detailed chart targeting a sort of installation by sort of mid-August of this year, their charges, should they be successful. The applicants have also confirmed support from both of the district councillors for this area, an agreement or consent to the sort of other 3 conditions of the grant, that they'll basically provide the council with the usage data and maintain the charger both for a minimum of 3 years, and then that they'll register the charger also on a public map so that people can find it when they're out and about looking for somewhere to charge. And they've also confirmed via an electrician that the power supply at the site is able to, has a capacity and is sufficient for the chargers. So taking sort of all of that into consideration, I think it's a good application to the scheme myself, and it meets the criteria set out in the guidance. But yeah, I'm happy to take any questions, but that's all for me from now. Thank you.
Thanks, Luke. Colleagues, any questions? Councillor Williams.
Does the community centre have solar power? And if it doesn't, perhaps we could ask them to approach us about a grant from the Zero Communities Fund, so that these charging points can be powered from VP.
Good question. I don't know personally whether it does or not, but if I can certainly find out, and if it doesn't, and if they've not previously accessed the grant, or if they've not got solar on there at the moment, it would obviously be a good solution, and enable them to sort of use some renewables to charge the chargers.
Thanks, Luke. Councillor Hanley.
Answer your question, Councillor Williams. There aren't solar panels yet, but I've been speaking with the chair, and he really wants to install solar panels. He's really all for it. I think the problem is that there are 1 or 2 members of the trustees putting all of these things together. It's just a matter of getting one under the belt and moving on to the next. I think they felt that the EV chargers would actually benefit the centre greatly, simply because it's a conference centre. People now have electric cars, and so you know. The answer is yes. I'm pretty sure that solar panels will be installed in the fairly near future.
Councillor Anton.
Thank you. Thank you. I've no problem with this at all. I think it's in the right place. It's wonderful. What I perhaps want to understand is the people that are putting it in, how do you manage an EV point? If Joe Bloggs arrives at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and plugs his car in and doesn't take it away until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, how do you manage ensuring that others have access to that facility and can use the facility to the maximum potential? And I'm nothing against this particular one, it's more of interest.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's a good question, because it's obviously an issue with people overstaying and hogging a charge point. There's along with the charge point, the physical piece of equipment itself, there's sort of a back office software that manages and runs the charger, that takes payment from the people using it and reports back issues to the charge point operator or to their maintenance team. And that software can also obviously time the amount of track the amount of time that people are using the charger. And within that software, you can set the amount of time that people can stay and be charged the normal rate for the electricity that they're using. And then after a certain point, so say 2 hours, for example, if that was what you chose, you could then be charging them a much higher rate to stay at that charge point. So if they stayed for 2 hours and then they were there for another couple of hours after that, that sort of second couple of hours, you could charge that at a higher rate to discourage them. And then you could potentially make that known through a sign or a sticker on the front of the charger, so that people saw that, and then they didn't find out after the fact. They would then realise, oh, I need to be unplugged here, within 2 hours. So that's one way of managing it. Other sort of more generally, other ways I've seen sort of just a general car parking charger. I appreciate that probably isn't something that might be used here. I think other councils perhaps use it, as you would just normally, any sort of car parking charge for, a maximum stay of a couple of hours or whatever it might be. So they're the two main ways that I'm aware of. But the software is quite flexible, so you can set a maximum time that people can sort of dwell and use the charger, and then thereafter they could be charged a higher rate to discourage them from sort of overstaying and hogging the charge point.
Thank you. I hope with time we develop better ways. I think we ought to set off an alarm. That makes somebody come running and take their car out.
Probably employ the Environmental Health Officer a lot. Councillor Williams.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's an electric car user. You get fined, basically. There are lots of different ways that people do this. I mean, Tesla, for example, if you overstay on a Tesla, you get fined quite a considerable sum of money. And there are other operators that do that, and there are operators, as has been explained, only give you a certain period of time to charge your car. So yeah, it's in their interests not to have a car sitting on the charge point, not charging. So these operators do have ways, because you have to give them, you have to use an app, so they have your bank details. So if you don't, if you sit there all day, you'll get money taken out of your bank account.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, are we looking to support this? I'm looking at the room, nods all the way around. Councillor Williams, Luke, that's a yes from us down here. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5. This is where my colleague Sue will be taking over. I just need to ask Democratic Services just for a second. I can give a very brief update which doesn't involve any money or any kind of interest as far as I know. but you can always stop me.
Yeah, we can. I mean, I trust your judgment, Chair, but we will step in should it sort of cross over any boundaries.
I will look for the brick in the side of my head. Okay, thank you. Right, just very quickly for colleagues. As of today, the Melbourne Mobile Warden Scheme will be taking over control of the Harston Scheme. That's what the agreement was that we signed last week. The total number of people being served has gone from 48 in Mobile Warden Scheme up to 64 now. There was another 2 additions over the Harston area over this week, and all the wardens are retained for both schemes. They're joined together. I'm just trying to make sure I go right through this properly without saying anything. I think that's probably about it. I think that would be enough, I think, to say. So I'll hand over to my colleague and now leave the room. Thank you.
Thank you. Emma, do you want to say a few words?
Absolutely. I think I'll just add a little bit to what Councillor Hills has just said. So from 2021 to 2024, we provided Harston Village Warden Trust with £5,500. And before the sort of takeover took place, they also approached Age UK to see if they would be interested in the scheme, which they declined, politely declined. So obviously, Councillor Hales has just updated you, so what they're requesting is that the funding that we provided to Harston is transferred to the Melbourne scheme. Obviously, that would need to come back to the council for reallocation, as we've done in previous sort of situations that are similar to this. So, yeah, any comments on that one, please?
Thank you, members. Would anybody like to have a few words?
This seems a fairly straightforward operational matter. It's a matter for us, but it seems a fairly straightforward thing to me. So, yeah, I've got no objections to this at all.
As Councillor Handley has said, it's an operational matter, and I'm quite happy to support this.
I see nods and happiness from all concerned. So, and certainly I feel it's a very good conclusion to an issue. So I think we're totally supported. Any objections? No. In that case, it's a nod from us. Thank you. Thank you, Jose. That was a nod from everybody.
Thank you very much.
We'll keep the money, you can have it.
Right, okay. Colleagues, agenda item number 6, which is the Care Together seed funding for mobile warden schemes. And I believe, Emma, it's yours. Thank you very much, Emma.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the Care Together seed funding for mobile warden schemes. So the Adult Social Care Community Board at the County Council have approved funding of £28,500 to us for 2 things. Firstly, the promotion of services of mobile warden schemes, which is obviously with an aim to increase numbers of service users and ensure the continuation of face-to-face visits at a reasonable cost. And then secondly, to support the Melbourne Mobile Warden Scheme, as we've just heard about, in taking over the management of the Harston District Village Warden Trust. And this is obviously to ensure the continuation of the support to clients. So the grant scheme totals £21,000, and this would be administered by us as the council, South Cambs District Council. and I've proposed some scheme criteria, and that's in Appendix A on page 27. And this criteria, just to let you know, is in line with other grant schemes that we've run as well, so it's very similar, just with a few additional things, obviously. The remaining £7,500 would be allocated directly to the Melbourne Mobile Warden Scheme for the purpose of, as I've said, taking over the Harston scheme. This is in accordance with the funding agreement provided by County Council. So your thoughts will be welcomed on whether you agree to the criteria in Appendix A and the points that I have raised. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Colleagues, I do apologise. I even read this again this morning and didn't even twig. On page 24 of your agenda, right at the top, it clearly states Melbourne Mobile Warden Scheme in the same sentence as £7,500, which is puts me into pecuniary interest, if you like. So I do apologise for not declaring that earlier. But if I hand over to Councillor Ellington then to take this one again, I do apologise. Thanks.
Can I ask if it's possible for us to deal with the £7,500 proposal first, so that Jose could be returned to discuss the rest of the grant? Is that a possibility?
Bear with me, Chair. Let me just review the recommendation and come back to you. Apologies.
Okay. And I think it would be useful to have Jose's input into this particular
I think our view at Dem Services is, yes, please do take the £7,500 for Melbourne without Councillor Hales here, and once that item or that recommendation's been dealt with, we're more than comfortable for Councillor Hales to return. Thank you.
Okay. Is everybody happy with that idea? Okay. Right. Well, so we'll take, if we take the £7,500 then that has been put aside, as it were, for the Melbourne schemes, which are independent and run independently, are we happy? Has anybody got anything to raise about that particular part of this proposal? Press button A and get your money back. That's it.
Only one question. I think this is excellent. I have nothing against it. But if we give a one-off payment, how is it going to be funded the following year?
I think my understanding was that that £7,500 would be, again, a one-off payment, and it would be include the furtherance of more services for to provide for the growth in the services for Melbourne services, so that it's for a particular element, not just to support the whole scheme. That was my understanding of what I read. Is that correct, Emma?
That's correct, yes, it's one-off. And it is
because this is a lump of money that's come specifically for new and innovative movement to promote community warden schemes, that 7.5 has been allocated to Melbourne because it's such a large patch and has got so much going on just at the moment with adding Harston to its patch. All right, are you all right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I support this. Happy to vote for this, yeah.
In that case, can we have Jose back to talk the rest of the issues through?
Yes.
Yes, we decided by acclamation. Oh, well, you all nodded. What more do you want?
Just for the records.
Just for the record.
Can I confirm that by affirmation we're content with that part of the recommendation? Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry.
No problem.
Come.
You're welcome back now, yes. You can go off your 20 seconds.
We've decided the 7,500, so you're only talking about the 21 now.
Thank you, Sue, that's lovely. Okay. I'm assuming then that Emma just carries on now, then, is that what I said?
Emma's done it a bit.
Oh, she's done
It's
it a
your
bit.
turn now.
My turn?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
To discuss this particular
Right, okay.
proposal.
In that case, obviously, we read our agendas well in advance of meetings and what have you, and there was just a thought that came to two or three of us that we were thinking about. And I'd like to, with Sue brought this forward, and we'd like to put it together, us together, if you like, and offer it to you as a committee to have a consideration of and to explore any legal issues that may or may not arise from it. So we need to go quite into it, and it may even be a case of having to defer this little portion of the money, just if we were to take further advice from legal or whatever. But it's just a thought. This is nothing against you, Emma. It was just, it came out of the blue last night, to be fair. So the remaining 21 grand, when you look at the number of schemes there are in South Cambs, individual schemes, there are certainly more than that times 2, 14 schemes, isn't it? 21, no, less than that, 12. So not every scheme would be able to benefit from the money in the first place. Right? So that's the rub, if you like, there. So it would be a first come, first served. And we were thinking that I wonder if there was a consultation process with all of the schemes from us to say, we've got this money sitting here and we appreciate how difficult it is sometimes to do a big advertising campaign or something like that, even targeted or whatever. And it might be that if that ABC scheme said, oh yes, please, I'd like to be targeted for an advertising campaign, then that South Cambs could then do that targeted campaign. I mean, I use Melbourne Hub as an example. We were researching and are likely to go ahead with a targeted campaign on postcodes using the post office. So all the leaflets that will get delivered by the postman as they go around their normal business. And it would include Royston, which is in North Harts, right the way up to the M11. There's a huge chunk of SCDC, if you like, and all the different postcodes. And not including the leaflets cost, we were looking at something like 2,500 to do that area. It's a substantial area, it really is. And you could put like an A4 through the door with all of the local schemes details on it, so it could be individualised, which makes it quite personal to those schemes. And they would then be able to manage, there'd be none of our contact details, would just be essentially the modem to put that leaflet out through the door using the post office. And that could be targeted. If a Warden scheme doesn't want it or can't cope with any more people, then they would say, no, thank you, we don't want to be advertised. And so therefore we wouldn't advertise. So that was about the nut. Sue, over to you.
I think the thing that bothered me was that there is no way that my particular patch, and I've talked to a couple of other patches, could possibly spend £2,000 on promoting the community warden scheme in my village. There is just, we have done everything. We have leafleted, we have been to coffee mornings, we have done all those sort of things. And there is nothing that we could think of that could amount to anything like £2,000. And if we left the money as one big chunk and we made it a priority of South Cambs to promote community warden schemes using that money, we could, and my understanding is that it's not about us telling community warden schemes that they're going to get the advert, as it were, or the promotion, but asking them if they would like to be part of that, because then it's not South Cams schemes that we're promoting, it's the individual schemes on behalf. South Cams is doing it on behalf of the individual schemes. And I think we would have a much better hit rate if we're going into local newspapers, social media, and possibly even posters to go up at village fetes and those sort of events, so that we actually get to people rather than, I'm not wishing to decry your idea, Joseph, but I have to say that when I see that bundle of all those little adverts that are coming through my letterbox from Mr. Postman, I think there's a blue bin here, and that's where they go. So it's much more of a personal approach that I think we have an opportunity here to use that money to employ.
Councillor Hanley.
Yeah, I actually think, I'm thinking along the same lines as Councillor Ellington. I do think that there's probably a better way, a more efficient way of using this seed funding. We would obviously need to speak with the funders, because the money's come from the Cambridgeshire County Council. The first thing we should do is talk to them. And we also need to make sure that what we do doesn't put this council into any, as Councillor Ellington said, put this council into any difficulties, because each of the schemes are independent schemes and will remain so. But I would certainly be open to have a talk with officers about how we might use this in the best possible way, rather than allocating it individually to independent schemes. If, as Councillor Ellington said, some schemes are very well, have very successful, have a lot of clients, may not need it. There are some which are struggling. We've got to keep bashing on the door about this. Never stop. We've got to keep advertising. And so, yeah, I would be happy if you were to, if someone to suggest, I'd do it myself, that we actually defer this and look at the best possible way of doing it, having spoken to the County Council.
Anybody else got anything to say? I'm going to just say one more thing. I've just logged on to the website that the Hub tends to use, Melbourne Hub use for its advertising leaflets. So if you wanted to buy 50,000 leaflets, full colour, 130 GSM paper grade, folded to make it look a little bit more sexy, right? That will cost 998 quid. So you can see the value in how, now I actually agree, now having heard what you just said, I actually agree. There's a two-pronged attack here. You could do the generalised whack out the leaflet for each location's mobile warden scheme with their own designs and what have you, stick that through the door, and then following up in the next week or so with the targeted stuff. So that may well be a way forward, and you can't say then we haven't actually tried hard. I think the targeted would cost a lot more than that. But the delivery, if you add 2,500 to that for the delivery, for that 50,000, it's a drop. I think the one I looked at was 44,000 for 2.5 grand. So homes. So that's worth thinking about. Okay, thanks. Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Chair. I would have my doubts about using either Royal Mail or private delivery companies for distributing this information. With the experience we've had with party leaflets, half of them just get thrown back in the poster's van and don't get delivered. As Councillor Ellington said, the more localised approach, whether that's village newsletter or just handing them out at coffee mornings, is probably going to be far more cost effective.
Councillor Hanraj.
So I'm with Sue Ellington on this. I believe personally that a targeted approach is the best one. GPs would be aware, district nurses, families, and I'm sure leaflets will go in the bin. It's a waste of effort.
All super. I've been doing this for years, right? And so there's the Data Protection Act when it comes to families, right? There was a whole raft of stuff here, but I think actually what's come out of this is to defer the decision on this. I think I'm looking around the room as an absolute yes, and then go back to Emma and say, I'm really sorry, or we're really, or actually, in fact, it's Sue's fault, but we're really sorry that all the work you've just done on this particular piece. But I'm looking at you now. Right, we are sorry, but if you, we can defer it, and then we can have a little stopgap and think to see. I think probably the targeted, in some form or another, is going to be the way forward. But I think it's going to have to be with the advice from legal, as Councillor Williams was indicating earlier, that we need to be careful, can't tread on people's toes. Once that's done and confirmed, it might be a consultation with each of the warden schemes to say, do you want it? That's the first thing, and then go from there. So I think that's a way forward. So, do you want to come back, Sue?
Just and we have a really good communications team here. And if you give them a free hand and a bit of money, they'll think of something that'll really hit home.
In that case, may I look around the room and look for support for deferral? And now looking at the lead member for resource, if it's okay, yeah? Yep, okay. Okay. So,
we'll take everyone's views into account for the next meeting, and we'll come back to the next meeting with a revised.
do you think at the next meeting, Councillor Williams, is too soon, or would it be perhaps the meeting after that? Perhaps I'm looking at Emma for the amount of work.
So obviously July's Grants Advisory Committee. I think one of the agreements was that we had to spend money or had to be used within 6 months, but I need to double check that. I did just on this point, you talked about obviously legal advice. I have spoken to the monitoring officer who's had sight of the document but hasn't gone into every sort of part of it, so I can obviously have another meeting with him just to sort of just to clarify things. And then in terms of promotion, we had our workshop, obviously, as you know, on Tuesday, and I've already started to look into organisations that we can promote to, like the Home Improvement Agency and various people like the social prescribers. I'm creating a big database at the moment, so that should help.
Thank you. And I actually think, can we just, if Emma checks with the time limit on the money, as long as we fall inside that, if we have a constructive plan, I'm sure County will be happy with that. But if we just leave Emma to do what she does best,
to come back with a report. Yeah.
Okay, that's superb. Thank you. Okay then, Emma. We're looking at number 7 then. Now, I don't think I have to leave on this one, do I? It's only a report. I'm getting tired, keep going in and out.
Okay, thank you. So this is the Mobile Warden Schemes Grant End of the Year Progress Report. So that's 2022-23. I believe this is page 35, is that correct? So a total of £71,708 has been provided by the Council to contribute towards schemes for the financial year of 2023-24. As shown in the appendices, all schemes receiving grants are on track to deliver the agreed outputs. However, as you're aware, most schemes are experiencing financial challenges, and obviously I'd welcome your thoughts, and if you can let me know if you need any sort of further investigation or action, that would be appreciated. Thank you. I won't go into too much detail on all the, obviously it's a long report, so thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Colleagues, any questions? Councillor Hanley. Anybody else got any questions? Points? First of all, I'd like to say thank you for doing the report. And if anybody else has had a hand in this, thank them too, but primarily your good self. It is quite a good success story, I think, with regards to the number of schemes that we have going. And I think, going back to the last item, if we can add more to it than just people to the schemes rather than more schemes, it's just, whichever way round it is, it's more people being looked after and cared for, kept out of full-time residential care, which has its own knock-on effect into the county pot, not having to fork out 50 odd grand, give or take, a year per head for someone in the basic form of care, then that's a bonus all the way around. I can't think other than to say thank you, but we've noted what you've written and it's fabulous. And I'll go to Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. I think we do obviously need to recognise that some schemes haven't yet recovered from COVID and the effects that COVID had on the number of clients that they serviced, and some schemes continue to struggle as a result of that. Also, I think we need to note that most schemes have a deficit, and again, that is something that we will need to address over this year when we come to look at next year's budget, how we go about addressing that. And I'm very grateful to the officers who have set up the workshop. We're grateful to them to do that, and Catherine, and obviously taking that forward so that we can share best practice between the various groups. But I think going back to the previous item, the really important thing is that we've got to get numbers up, and the only way we can do that is to publicise the schemes more and to focus that publicity on the people that make the decisions and sometimes it's not the people that are the clients that make that decision. It can be their children or it can be other people like the GPs. And personally, I think that there's a lot more, there's an opportunity there to do a lot more with those people. But as I say, we can't, it's great. Thank you very much for the report. It shows that we are, at least in South Cambs, very much trying to help people stay in their own homes, so that not only do we save the NHS and adult social care money, but they feel happier in themselves. It's the person's well-being here. That's the whole point of doing this. But we have to recognise that it is costly. We don't have this is not a statutory duty of this council, so we need to think very hard how we continue to fund these schemes going forward.
Thank you. Yeah, completely agree with Councillor Williams. I think, we're about to, it's a concern that so many schemes are in deficit for a start, and we do need to look at things. We're thinking of setting up a new scheme for 24 to 27. We now have changes. We've got an integrated care system. We've got a county council which is looking at what it does. I think we need to work together to try and produce a system which works nicely within that integrated care system. And the funding of these schemes needs to be looked at very radically as well, so that we don't have schemes that are in a deficit at the end of the 3-year period. We want ones that balanced budgets, really. That's ideally. So I would suggest that we do look at the mobile warden scheme in some detail. Bear in mind what we've said earlier about communications, advertising, etc. But also working in hand in glove, really, with the county council, that is their statutory responsibility to provide care. We want to work with them. So let's have a good old hack at this before we decide what we do for 24 to 27.
Councillor Ellington.
I have done a bit of homework, and yes, we do need to increase the numbers. I don't dispute that. But my particular group have had an average of 13 service users this year, and we can only take 16. But if we took 20, at the end of next year, nothing else changes, we would, with 13, we would be £8,000 over. At the end, if we had 20 users, we would still be £4,000 over, under budget. So, you know, numbers are important. We do want to keep the price down for clients to use. We significantly, I agree with Bill, that we do significantly need to get another funder on board. But I think we also need to look very closely at the costs that the Age UK have now decided to charge us to run these schemes, and that is really what's tipping us over the balance at this particular time. And I think we need to scrutinise those, whether it's that they've put things into the budget that are dubious, or whether we need to find somebody else to run our schemes for us. Because if the independents are managing to run them and managing to cover their costs, why isn't Age UK?
Thank you, sir.
Can I say something very important here? That those schemes are Age UK schemes, they are not South Cam schemes. Age UK have supplied us with the breakdown of the costs that they apply to running their schemes, and they're all based on individual schemes. So these are not South Cam schemes. We don't in any way employ Age UK to run these schemes. Age UK run these schemes and they apply to us for a grant to contribute towards running these schemes. So I think that's very important distinction to make here. But yes, I mean, obviously they have now provided us with the breakdown of the overheads that they charge for each of their schemes, and that maybe is something that we can talk to them about. But at the end of the day, they do not run these schemes for us. They are their schemes, and we contribute towards those schemes through the grants that we give them.
Thank you, Councillor. So just to clarify what we just said, the schemes that are not run by Age UK, which have been referred to as independent, I suppose you could like, they thrive or fail as anybody else. If they don't manage their finances right or get into trouble, then that's so be it. And judging by what you just said, even though Age UK set up the schemes, I suppose technically every one of the schemes that they set up fall under the same category if they can't manage to run.
And indeed, they have given us notice that they are no longer going to be running Fullborn and Teversham schemes from September because they can't make them pay. They can't get enough clients for those schemes to cover their costs. And so they've given us notice that they're not continuing with those schemes. So you have to bear in mind, you know, these are not our schemes. There are people, there are organisations that run these schemes, either Age UK or other groups, and we call them independent. I think, you know, maybe the terminology might be changed there, but they're independent, i.e. they're not an Age UK scheme. But at the end of the day, the council here provides grants to people who are running these schemes. They are not South Cam schemes.
Thank you, John. Councillor Henley.
Yeah, John's just really reinforced what I've been saying, that we need to look afresh at this. We need to talk to the county and come up with a scheme schemes which are efficient and do what everybody wants them to do. So I would just say, you know, let's take this away come back with a scheme that we think is going to work.
I totally agree. Okay, thank you. All right, Emma, that's okay for you. We're going to go on to the next one, which is the community chest funding.
Oh, service support grants.
Oh, we could do service support grants first, shall we?
Oh, sorry, that's me all
Chair, sorry, just before we move on, I just wanted to clarify, are we assigning any timescales to the action of the last item?
Yes.
Well, can I say that obviously we have to put next year's budget together for the following 3, as far as this is concerned, for the, we have to put the budget for 24-25, and that has to be put together by October. So, we really need to have a decision on this made for the, what did you say, September? Like the latest of September meeting of this committee.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Emma, I thought we'd done the service support grants. I thought perhaps we just strayed into it by mistake, so I do apologise.
Oh,
Let's go back to agenda item number 8, and then Emma can do her bit, and then if we've strayed further, we'll go what we said.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so service support grants, again, another end of year progress report for 2022-23, page 61. So this is the last annual progress report for the 2019 to 2023 cycle, and you'll know that this is a cycle that includes 1 extra year's funding due to the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's good to see from Appendix A on page 65 that these organisations have in the main recovered from the effects of COVID, so that's really good to hear. Just to note, as you'll be aware, Disability Cambridgeshire has now closed, and the remaining £2,500 of their grants has been transferred to DISH, which is Disability Huntingdonshire, who also receive our funding. You'll notice in the report there's a few highlighted bits in yellow. So one of these was from the voluntary network. There were just some statistics that I was waiting on. I'm still waiting on these. I have emailed, so it's just part of the things that we've said to them that they would need to provide in their agreement. So just a note on that one. And again, Care Network, there was just reference to a project called Project Catalyst. In the original grant agreement, when I looked at it, there was something called the Open Arms Project, and I've looked at both projects and I can see that they tried to both tackle loneliness. So I think it's probably something as far, I mean, I wasn't working on this grant back in 2019, but I think what it intends to do is a very similar thing. I think the Project Catalyst is something they're providing a grant, £300 grant to help organisations that tackle loneliness. So that's just something to be aware of. Yeah, and as with the previous agenda item, I'll just welcome any comments, any things for further action. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Colleagues, any questions or comments for Emma? I'd just like to say thank you for the work you put into this report and the fact that we nearly missed it. So I'm sorry about that. It just seems to be a good success story all the way through. Like, really, I think so. That's pretty jolly good actually. And then we know about DISH anyway, didn't we? A couple of meetings back, so that's good. Right, if there's no one else that's got any comments or questions for Emma, I'll just say thank you, noted, and that's lovely. And perhaps we could move on to number 9. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the last agenda item. So you'll have the details of 8 applications this month, and this includes 1 community-led plan application. However, since the report was written, the Melbourne County Primary School Parents, Teachers and Friends Association on page 115 have withdrawn their application in response to an email. We emailed them asking for further details, including whether they have permission from the school and the county council. They've not yet managed to obtain any written permission, and their quote from the electrician has now expired. So they said that they would rather resubmit once they have this information. So I've done some recalculations, the totals. So for the 7 remaining applications, the total applied for is now £11,977.09, not £13,160.09. Okay, so on to the first application, page 111. We have Cambridge Open Art Exhibition. This organises the annual Open Art Exhibition for artists in South Cambridgeshire. It also stores and loans equipment for schools and community groups for their own events. And what they'd like is new and replacement display and hanging equipment. And this is just to replace older equivalents that they've got. Total costs are £1,880.09, all of which has been requested from the community chest. I've broken that down further. You can see in the report of how much the hanging hanging equipment is in the display boards. So you can see those. Both district councillors are in support. Thank you.
Colleagues, questions, please. We're very silent today. Councillor Anthony.
Well, it seems a very useful project that they are able to provide equipment that otherwise people would go out and buy and then perhaps destroy or stick in a cupboard and not use anymore. So I'm all in favour of it.
Thank you. And I'm looking around the room and I'm not seeing any dissent in the faces. So am I to assume that we'll agree? We do. Thank you, Emma. It's an agree. Next one.
Thank you. Page 112, we have the Papworth Team Ministry. This offers companionship and support to elderly people, and that's in 15 local villages. And they organise a summer event called Rendezvous, and that's a holiday club for senior citizens. That's held in August in Papworth Village Hall. So the 2-day holiday programme includes activities, talks, demonstrations and entertainment, as well as lunch and transport. That's all part of the package there. Total costs for hall hire, activities and catering are £1,920, and £600 has been requested from the community chest. Papworth Parish Council are providing £225, Elterslie Parish Council are contributing £75, and they've made a grant application to the Samuel Franklin Trust, but they're still waiting on the outcome of that one. Green options, where possible, they're going to share transport, and local activity leaders will be used and recycling will take place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Colleagues, Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I actually met with the organisers a few weeks ago. They're having what may be described as a kick-off. They've got a solid core of enthusiastic organisers and a lot of senior citizens keen to attend. The village hall was essentially full just for this kick-off event, so it's obviously well supported, and it's noted I am supporting the application.
Thank you. I suppose one question is they made the application for funding and you haven't heard yet from, what was it you said it was called? Who was it they've applied to, Emma?
The Samuel Franklin Trust.
Yeah. How much have they applied for that for? 500? No.
Yeah, hold on. Total costs are 1,920. So the total costs, and they've applied for £600. I can't calculate in my head right now.
That's right.
The exact amount.
Suffice to say, they've asked for 600 of 1,900 cost, which seems quite low, really. I mean, they're not taking taking the mickey or anything. If you look on page 114, it's in association with obviously district councillors. Councillor Sanford has spoken and written, that's fine, and so has Councillor Howell. And Councillor Howell says in his last sentence, hope the grant committee is able to support the church and even if possible increase the request for an extremely worthwhile endeavour. I don't know if there's any need to increase it, but if they don't get their other funding, they're still well within the £2,000. And I just wonder if they should be advised that if they don't get their other funding, that they could come back. and ask again for the top-up, if you like, to replace the bit they didn't get. Councillor Sanford.
I would think their costs aren't actually fixed. If they don't get the additional grant, they can always cancel some of the entertainment or activities to suit their budget. It isn't like they're going out with buying a fixed item, so to speak.
I take your point, but I was hoping that we could maintain the agenda of entertainment for all these different groups. It could be quite impactful if some of these aren't done. So anyway, that's just a thought. But other than that, Councillor Hanley.
Just can I be reassured? I mean, this has been run by a church. Can I be reassured that it's open to the general public? It's not just for the congregation.
It is. We asked this question, I think, before about this particular one when it had minister in it, and it's open to all.
Yeah, I can endorse that as well. I asked the question that it is cross-church. It's not even open to people who are members of a church. It's just senior citizens in general.
In that case, I think I'm looking around thinking that we're okay with this. That's a yes, please. Yes. If you could just put that caveat, Emma. Thanks.
Okay, so page 114, we have the Great Chisel Windmill Trust. So they look after the windmill, obviously, which is a popular local attraction. You can see the photograph of it there on the agenda. What they'd like to do is purchase and install an additional picnic table and bench. Total project costs are £2,532. £2,000 has been requested from the community chest. The additional £532 will come from their existing funds. They've not asked the parish council for assistance, as they've already provided £2,500 this year to help with the annual maintenance costs. So that's things like insurance, maintaining the grounds and cleaning. Councillor James Hobro is in support.
Thank you. This was my patch prior to the boundary changes of, was it 2018? Mm-hmm. And I know this very, very well. The parish council are monumentally supportive of this project. They really are. They've underwritten it for donkey's years. So I have no issue with that comment there with regards to the parish. It is a beautiful windmill. It really is. It's one of the last few, and it's beautifully placed on top of a hill. You get the best wind, and they've worked so hard for this. So I think I hope to speak on behalf of Councillor Hobro on this one, but it's over to you. Questions from the floor. Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Chair. Just trying to see whether the groundworks fit in, somewhat over £2,000. That's not just for installing a new picnic table, is it?
That includes groundwork, I believe, as well. Yes, groundworks, £2,000. Purchase the table and benches, 520.
So that's just general groundworks on the site. Okay, fine, thank you.
I think around the picnic area, I think.
It needs to be nailed down and go for a walk. Okay, in that case, I'm looking around. I think we're in acceptance.
Yep.
Yep, thank you very much. Next one, Emma.
Right. The next one is the county primary school for Melbourne that I told you that they've withdrawn their application, so we won't go on to that one. There's no point with that one. Are you happy for them to obviously defer to a future grants advisory committee? Are you happy for that to take place? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, please.
So page 117. So we have the Melbourne Dynamos Football Club. They're a community football club who play on a number of pitches around Melbourne Village College. They currently have around 430 participants, with 270 playing regularly in the under 7 to under 18 age groups. And what they would like is 2 sets of metal collapsible goals, first aid kits and a quantity of match balls. Total project costs are £2,000, all requested from the community chest. You'll see some yellow highlighted parts here. I've now received quotes, which includes a long list of different size balls and quantities, all highlighted. They've requested £2,000 exactly, but I think what they've probably done is gone for the maximum amount, and the balls, which are relatively low cost, I think they've kind of added those all in to get to the maximum. What else? So also, we've also been told that the goals have been purchased and will be purchased and stored nearby. Sorry, pardon me. So that they aren't left out. So that's obviously good. They have a verbal open-ended agreement with the college and the Sports Centre Management Committee to access the pitches. The club is very well supported by Melbourne Parish Council, and they've recently provided £6,337.76 in funding. I did ask what specifically this funding was provided for, but I haven't managed to ascertain that yet, so I don't know if, Chair, you may know a little bit more on that bit, but we have obviously yourself and Councillor Sally-Ann Hart in support. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, just to explain the 633 and the 8737. Melbourne Parish Council has a solar fund for a number of years now, and that's up in the late 40s, thousands. So they have a number of applicants, which grows every year, and if they are swamped by applicants, then what they do is they divide the amount by the applicants and then start taking percentages of everybody. So everybody would not have got their full application, but they still help out. So that's what's happened here. And so the suggestion there was made by my colleague that's come to this committee for the other bits and pieces. There's a variety of football equipment, stuff like that. They do fund in its entirety the subscription fees and kit for people from an underprivileged background. I believe they have some disabled individuals, and I think there are special requirements for bits and pieces for there. So they're a team and a half, or a club and a half rather, and they've got about 20 or 22 teams, something like this, that they're playing all the time. It's a huge effort. So this is a drop in the ocean, this kind of help. But anyway, over to the floor. Councillor Hanley.
Honestly, I can support this quite easily, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I've no problems with it.
Thank you very much. Anybody else got anything to say, or shall I just look around the room and look for nods?
Nods.
Nods it is. So thank you very much, Emma. Next one.
Okay, page 118. So we have another football club. This is the Cottenham United Colts Football Club. We currently have 400 members. This includes 15 boys teams and 7 girls teams. And they're expanding the number of teams, so they need another set of portable goals. Total project costs are £4,695.68 per pair, including delivery and assembly. £2,000 has been requested from the community chest. They've also made applications to the Co-op Community Fund, that's £1,400. Fenedge Community Association, that's £1,000, and club fundraising will cover any shortfalls. The Parish Council are supportive of the extra goals but have no funding available. There will also be a requirement to move the goals to the club's other location at Cottenham Village College, depending on the pitch allocation. So obviously, as goals, they're quite portable. We have support from Councillor Eileen Wilson. Still waiting on support. Oh no, sorry, we do have support from Councillor Osborne. That's just recently come in as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Colleagues? I mean, I think it's just a rework of what we just said just now. Councillor Ellington.
Yeah, I thought it was a rework. The only thing that I did feel slightly uncomfortable about was that Cottenham is quite a big parish with a large parish council. And yes, they say they support, but there's no evidence that they have in the past supported or helped, except verbally. And I just felt that was a bit mean.
I agree with that comment. I mean, it surprised me that the parish council said no. That is, that they haven't financially supported them. It just doesn't seem right at all.
I suppose the only consolation, I mean, there obviously must be reasons for that, but the only consolation I can think of for us as a grants committee and officers is that if Melbourne played Cottenham, obviously Melbourne would win. So that would be a bonus, and we could feel heartened that the parish council should have put their hand in their pocket, and it might have been a different result. So on that note, perhaps we could ask Emma to write back to the Cottenham Football Club. I mean, I'm assuming we're going to support this, just looking around the room. So that's a yes, but could you write back and say that we were disappointed that Cottenham Parish Council didn't put their hand in their pocket, and if they have for something else, then they should have put it in the application form. Thank you. Next.
Okay. So page 119, Madingley Parish Council. This is an unusual application. I've not had one like this before. This is a parish council who are obviously one of our smaller parish councils, so they're eligible to apply. But they're responsible for the drainage on the land at the Church Lane play area. What's happened is over the years, the pipe work that collects the spring water from the play area has become blocked and deemed basically ineffective and not, it's obviously useless. Because of this blockage, knock-on effect is that there's a stream of water that runs downhill onto the road, and there's a big puddle in the play park as well. Back in 2021, a cyclist unfortunately slipped over, so urgent gritting is now needed on a regular basis when it's obviously freezing weather. And I've mentioned about the boggy patch that's by the entrance to the playground. So they've had a recent quote of £2,994, and that's from a recommended contractor. This is quite interesting. Although the parish council have agreed to finance all of the projects in their meeting on the 17th of November, it's now hoped that half of the costs could come from the community chest so that they can maintain the reserves for sort of replacing play equipment as necessary, and also for speed reduction projects in the village. We have support from Councillor Corinne Garvey, and I'd welcome your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Colleagues, this is a slightly more complicated one. My instant response to the last sentence you read, more or less, was why didn't you put an application in for the play equipment and not this? But anyone else got any comments? Councillor Hanley?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite troubled by this, to be honest. Seems to me this is the sort of thing the parish council should be paying for. We should, yeah, I agree with you. You know, if they've got, be a bit more imaginative, you know, maybe provide another item of equipment for the play area, it would have been a different thing. But I don't know. This is maintenance, surely.
Councillor Anton?
Surely it's parish council business to manage their drainage area, but particularly in their play area. Why would we pay for that? I'm not being difficult, really. It's just I need to understand things, and I don't think it's our bag, to be honest.
Okay. I think this is difficult. Councillor Raj, Councillor Sanford, have you got any comments you'd like to make before we move forward? Councillor Sanford? Raj?
So there's nothing, no one said why the parish council won't fund it, so can we not just go back and ask them?
You mentioned about the reserves, maintaining their level of reserves so they can essentially fix the play equipment and what have you, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, at a later date. But Councillor Sanford.
Yeah, likewise, I'm a little uneasy about this. I noticed the playing fields are actually leased from the university, and I'm wondering what the terms of the lease are, whether the university should actually be maintaining the ground. I don't know, but I think we need more information, particularly why they've come back very late in the day and asked for half the funding.
I agree. On page 120, paragraph 3 fills me with utter dread, where it says that the replacement drainage pipe was laid by the former chair of the council. and for some years the pipe worked quite well, but in 2020 it became completely blocked by tree roots due to perforated field drainage pipe being used instead of a solid pipe. I know. I'm minded to refuse. I mean, I think Councillor Sanford's comment with regards to who owns the land, and I take it that's where the water's running from, right? In which case the university has a duty of care, and for this amount of money, I'm sure they even got contractors on site that can do this quicker than anything else. I think. So if we politely decline to support this, I think that would be a fair one. I'm looking around the room. Yeah, and with those comments from us, if they could research the university, and if the water's coming out over the road, it's highways as well. So highways they could probably work together. Everybody could work together, and not hit us. Emma, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I did make some inquiries with County Council on this, and also the flooding team as well, but unfortunately, because it's coming from the land where the university own it, it's not really their sort of bag, if you know what I mean. So it's not really their responsibility as such. So
they would more likely pass it back to the owner of the water. Yeah, okay.
Not the parish council.
Right then, okay, Emma, thank you. Next one then.
Yep, so we have our very last application. This is a community-led plan application from Falmere, sorry. So this comprises of 10 active members from across the community, with an additional 10 being drawn upon. They've had several meetings, and a questionnaire has been developed. I actually went to their meeting back in, I think it was January time, and I was really, really impressed with what they've done, and the enthusiasm, I think, really shone through. So this is great to see this application. I did encourage them to apply. Surveys and the completed plan will be available online. They'll give paper copies as well, so that obviously they're going to sort of make it accessible to all. Total project costs are £3,000 and £2,000 has been requested from the community chest, and that will be from the community-led plan budgets. So you can see the breakdown of the costings there. So that's promotional materials, surveys, meetings, printed copies of the plan, contingency money as well. The parish council has agreed to hold the funds on behalf of the group if they're successful. And they've also agreed to fund the remaining £1,000. We have support from Councillor James Hobro. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. I think this is, to quote the obvious, a no-brainer. Since this is one of the projects that we work to help parishes come with the community-led plan. Helps our planning process, doesn't it? So, are we all agreed with this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to say something, Councillor Andy? Sorry.
Only to say this is this is going to help the community to help themselves, so it's a no-brainer really.
Thank you very much. Okay, then that's a yes then from us on that one, Emma. And just pass on. It will save everybody having to write to you to say thank you, but we'll just say thank you anyway. Apologies for the mix-up earlier. Thank you, colleagues, members of the public. I know there are hundreds out there watching this every day. It's absolutely fantastic. And to our two Dem Services colleagues here, Erin and Lawrence. I can add up Lawrence, as we're now going to call him. Thank you very much. Thank you to officers. Thank you to Luke, who was here and gone. And just to say the meeting's closed, but the next meeting will be on the 27th of July at 10 a.m. And thank you very much. Goodbye.